Have you ever just sat quietly in your room and suddenly felt this heavy, totally unexplainable weight of self-doubt crashing down on you? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the profound mystery of why our own brains seemed completely hardwired to second-guess us all the time. And honestly, why that feeling is actually way, way older than you probably think.
I mean, think about it for a second. Why does one tiny offhand criticism linger in your mind for days? You know the exact feeling I'm talking about, right? You could get 50 amazing compliments, but that one small critique, it just replays on a loop in your head at 2 a.m., keeping you staring at the ceiling. Or what about this? Why do we constantly compare ourselves to others, even when we logically know it's a massive trap? Even when we tell ourselves we really shouldn't do it, we just can't seem to stop measuring our own lives against every single person next to us. It usually boils down to this really quiet, incredibly vulnerable question we ask ourselves in our lowest moments. Why am I so insecure? And, we tend to blame ourselves for this. We label it a personal weakness. We treat it like it's this deep flaw in our character that we just desperately need to fix, or at the very least, hide from the rest of the world. So the crucial point is perfectly captured right here. What if insecurity isn't a flaw, but an ancient survival instinct? Seriously, what if this feeling that brings you so much daily distress is actually one of the oldest, most intensely powerful pieces of biological hardware you possess?
Part 1. The illusion of weakness and rewiring how we view self-doubt. Throughout this explainer, we're going to uncover exactly why evolution never actually removed insecurity from our DNA. But to truly grasp this, I need to violently pull you out of the modern world for a minute and drop you back exactly 100,000 years into the past. Okay, imagine you're living in a primitive, close-knit tribe. There are absolutely no sprawling cities, no supermarkets to just casually grab some food, no hospitals to take care of you if you fall ill. Literally, everything you do depends entirely on your group. Think about the timeline of humanity. We have 100,000 years of primitive tribe survival. That leads into early civilization just 10,000 years ago. And then, in an absolute blink of an evolutionary eye, we get the sudden explosion of global social media in the present day. Our brains simply haven't had the time to adapt to this totally new world. Natural selection ruthlessly favored our ancient ancestors who obsessively monitored their social acceptance. Because back then, the stakes were absolute. Belonging equaled survival, and rejection equaled death. If you were excluded from the tribe, you were entirely on your own out there. You faced predators, starvation, and the brutal elements in total terrifying isolation. Being pushed out of the group wasn't just sad, it was a literal death sentence.
Now, what's really interesting here is that because of that ancient programming, your brain operates an invisible security system with very specific triggers right now, today. It watches people's facial expressions, like a hawk. It constantly analyzes subtle shifts in someone's tone of voice. It absolutely panics over a delayed text message, or even just plain silence. Your brain instantly assumes the worst, simply because it's frantically trying to prevent social rejection before it even has a chance to happen.
Part 2. The cost of comparison. An ancient tool.
Today, looking at what other people have feels deeply harmful. It's exhausting, right? But thousands of years ago, this wasn't some sort of character flaw. It was an absolutely vital tool for staying alive. Our ancestors had to constantly ask questions like who hunted better, who had stronger alliances, who earned the tribe's respect. Asking these very precise questions helped early humans constantly assess their standing. Understanding your exact place in the group helped you make literal, life-saving decisions about who to align with and how to act safely within the tribal hierarchy. The consequences of getting that wrong were so severe that it actually physically altered our neurobiology. When we look at the neuroscience of pain, we see that social rejection activates the exact same brain regions involved in experiencing actual physical pain. Because ancient rejection was so deadly, criticism literally hurts your modern brain. It is processed biologically in the exact same way as a physical wound. And that is exactly why the number 10 is so important here. One single negative comment often totally outweighs 10 glowing compliments. And listen, this isn't happening because you're emotionally weak. It happens because your ancient brain is giving hyper attention to any possible threat. A compliment's nice and all, but your brain knows a critique could mean exclusion, so it massively amplifies the negative just to keep you safe.
Part 3. Modern life, ancient brain. The evolutionary mismatch.
So all of this creates a massive evolutionary clash. Your ancient brain was designed to focus on maybe 20 people in a village, surviving based strictly on local tribal respect. But our modern reality? It forces us to process millions of carefully edited lives, endless performance reviews, and these totally arbitrary metrics like likes and followers. Things like beauty standards and follower counts act as these massive, unrelenting social evaluations that trigger chronic insecurity, purely because your brain genuinely thinks you're being judged by a global tribe. Part 4. How confidence actually grows. A psychological roadmap.
So how do we actually fix this? How does confidence actually grow? Well, we need to build a completely new framework and take control back from our ancient biology. Step 1, face discomfort. Step 2, speak despite fear. Step 3, fail and keep going. Let's move along and see how this builds. Because psychology clearly shows us that confidence does not come first. You don't just magically wait around to feel confident before you do the scary thing. Confidence is built precisely by taking these specific actions when you are absolutely terrified.
You see, confidence isn't the absence of insecurity. It's taking action despite it. Your insecurity is not proof that you're broken or uniquely flawed in some way. Taking action, despite the fear, actively teaches your ancient brain that growth is actually a lot safer than hiding. You're literally proving to your nervous system, step by step, that you aren't going to die if you make a mistake or face a little bit of judgment.
I want to leave you with this final, really powerful truth. That little voice of doubt in your head, it isn't your future. It's just the echo of an ancient survival instinct trying its best to protect you from a world that literally no longer exists. So the next time you feel that heavy weight of self-doubt creeping in, will you let it paralyze you? Or will you recognize it as the ancient armor it was always meant to be? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. If you want more deep dives into human evolution and psychology, make sure to follow along. Until next time, stay curious.